So this is my Sink the Planet ride, and as you can see, I'm with all my mates. Me. I think and the theme is world peace. I'm not going to talk about world peace, but I'm going to talk about something that I think is kind of critical to it, and that's the ability to argue, which I know some of you might find strange, putting arguing and world peace in the same thing. But I think we've lost the ability to argue, or rather, we've lost the ability to argue properly. To form a reasoned argument for your thing, to convince somebody else to change their mind for the better, to come along to your way of thinking. Because all we do now is score points. So we either, at the moment, instead of developing a reasoned argument for your point of view, we believe that you win an argument by either shouting the loudest or being funnier than the other person. And that's not the way you win an argument. And anyone who's got kids will tell you this. If you've got two kids and you go upstairs because there's loads and loads of noise, and you come to intervene, the one that's in the wrong is generally the loudest, and generally the one that doesn't want you involved, because they know as soon as you get involved and you listen to both sides, you'll come down on their side. And we just don't, we don't get it. Whenever you have two opposing opinions debating something, they're never going to come to a mutual agreement because they've got too much invested in it. And I take the case in point of Cecil, or Cecil if you're American. So I watched the Jeremy Vine show, and they've got two people on. So a guy who runs an estate in Scotland, who obviously it's his job to he gets paid, or he charges people to come and shoot deer on his land in a managed, and for the deer, a secure way of doing it. So they pick off the old, injured and dying deer, and the money they get from the hunt pays to conserve the rest of them. So if he wasn't there, I suspect there'd either be lots of diseased deer, or they'd have been left to die out because the unscrupulous amongst us would have gone up and shot them for fun anyway. And there's no management involved. So they got him, and on the other side you got somebody who's, just their title, they're not going to argue. They're like they're part of the League for Conservation of Animals, and you just think you will not counter any, or you will not counter any solution that involves the death of an animal at the hands of a human being. And you just think, well, they're both going to argue. They've both got valid points, and neither of them are going to back down. So it's not going to be an argument as such. It's just going to be who can shout the loudest, or who can make stupid points about things that are going on. And you just think, if Jeremy Vine got a third party involved, so somebody who's got no vested interest in either, is just kind of a voice of reason, then very quickly the argument could be won. But I fear it never would, because both parties have got too much vested in it. So if I'd have been on Jeremy Vine, I'd have said to the conservation person, okay, if the main aim of this whole system that you're hoping for is to preserve lions, okay, so if we do a study, so I think there's evidence that the white rhino's done a similar thing. If we do a study that proves that the best way to conserve these kinds of animals is to manage them as a commodity, and I know it sounds harsh, but manage them as a commodity. So if the best way to manage them, or the best way to conserve them, is to do that, and if we can guarantee that the numbers of the animals will increase, are you willing to have a solution that involves hunting these animals? And when you put it like that, if they say no, then how can you have a reasoned debate? How can you argue with that person when they're not set up to change their mind? They're not set up for it. They will just argue for the sake of arguing. And it's kind of the same as the when Cameron, who I think is a dick anyway, called all the said that the people at Calais were as a swarm. Well, that's kind of what it is. That's the issue. But now people have made the issue the actual fact that he called it a swarm. So what? So you've got two people and they're not interested in debating, they're not interested in finding a solution. They're just interested in scoring the most points. And you just think in both scenarios, the UK people and the people in Calais have lost out. Because now it's about somebody calling them a swarm, for God's sake. So that's it. But my big issue in the world, I think, is we've lost the ability to argue properly. We just see it as you win an argument by either shouting the loudest or being the funniest in the argument. And I think as soon as we get, it's kind of the silent majority, isn't it? As soon as we get kind of the people in the middle ground who are not really fussed either way, as soon as we start asking them their opinion and asking them to be involved in these debates so they can give their kind of impartial opinion, all we're going to get is going to get both sides inflaming the issue that to improve their argument, instead of actually going, right, this is what I believe in, these are the reasons I believe in it. Now, this is how weird my brain works. I just had a thought about I suppose the whole argument thing and religion as such, and I don't mean all religion. I mean the kind of the religion belief, believing that you're right and everyone else is wrong and stuff. And I think if you look back to how we kind of used to settle disputes, or how people used to settle disputes in the long ago, they would go and see the king or the high priest. Well, not the high priest, that's religion again. Stop saying religion. The king or the leader, and I think that would have worked because the leader or the king is so far removed from the problems that these people have. So somebody will come and say, so and so stole my land, or blah de blah de blah, and the king has got no sort of connection with that. He just probably doesn't understand what's going on. So he would listen to it objectively, and then would decide, well, no, you've had it's been in your family for ages. That's your land. Whatever mitigating circumstances there are, so he might make an allowance for that. But he would look at it objectively. As soon as somebody says, this guy stole my land, I need it back because Dave the Great was born on this land and people need to come to the land to pray, you've kind of skewed the argument. You've made it, about something that it's not actually about. You've basically made shit up to justify your needs, and that kind of removes it. So the whole belief system, and it's with the Cecil thing, the kind of the conservationists, and when I say conservation, I mean I'm not talking about the people that are actually there, actually protecting rhinos, or actually camping out and with that kind of stuff. I mean the people that are sat in their nice ivory towers, thinking how nice it is that all the lions are protected. Those kind of conservationists, to them it's kind of a religion. You can't go against it, and there is no middle ground. And I think that's kind of the issue, that the way that us humans kind of need this thing to believe in. I think causes it. Your beliefs in something are so strong, even if that thing is stupid, that it skews everything you think and everything you say and everything you do towards your stupid belief. There you go, that's my final word. Unless I think of something else equally as groundbreaking. Well, I do think one final thought. I think when Jeremy Vine does this kind of stuff on his show, and I think everyone does, you know, I know it seems like Question Time try and do it with when they have a comedian or a columnist on there, but they've always got some kind of leaning. You need somebody totally impartial to, you know, tell them what they think from an impartial point of view. So Jeremy Vine has his for and against, but when the for and against are so widely apart, you're never going to get any common ground. So all you're going to do, you're going to inflame the argument by having more sound bites and more crazies bigging it up. I think they should have a third person, and I would like to put myself forward now to Jeremy Vine to be the third person. Happy to do it. Just obviously pay my travel.